put it more in the strategic context in terms of just the specific events that are taking place today. And I had a chance to be interviewed and talk about this a couple of weeks ago. And one of the comments I made was, I see Iran at an inflection point. And you had a chance through the panels earlier today to hear about the economic pressure and all the things that are taking place. Now that gets into the policy side. That's not my realm. So what we do is we inform policy, but that's not an area that we get involved in. But as we do the analysis, as we look at what's taking place, my comment about them being at an inflection point was really about how do you change the status quo. Now you heard the economic breakdown in terms of the pressure that's on the regime, where the GDP is going, the fact that they're going into a recession, and the glide path that they're on is more of the same. So what is it they have to do to kind of change the status quo, which was to ramp up the level of activity? And we saw this coming a couple of weeks out before it happened. So we're able to provide that information to senior leaders, both in the Department of Defense, and obviously they provide their best military advice to senior leaders on the Hill and within the White House. And for us, just the other thing I wanted to mention that I didn't talk about yet was, so who's my boss? So I have lots of bosses, but I'll give you the principal is the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, retired Vice Admiral Joe Kernan is my immediate boss, and then it's the Secretary of Defense. But you heard from Admiral Davidson yesterday, all the combatant commanders are my bosses because I serve all of them, and also we serve policy and the executive branch.
I can identify, I have a lot of bosses as well.
And then, I'm sorry, then my wife, Barbara, is
exactly
at the top of that.
I'm with you on that. Iran at a deflection point, and again, I don't want to talk the whole afternoon about Iran because we want to get to great power, China, Russia, but Iran at an inflection point, feeling the pressure you're in effect saying. They're feeling the economic pressure and they're striking out. They want to change the status quo.
So, and then what you see is an attempt to break that status quo is to look to divide us with our European powers, to try to get the European powers to come back in, to have an economic impact. So you kind of watch this across the dime. Now, my responsibility is to be very deep in the military part of the instruments of power. But as you look at what takes place in the world, while I have a responsibility for the M, I cannot ignore the diplomatic, the information, or the economic. Right. Because all those come to bear on the military piece. And in some cases, it informs indications of warning of where nations may be going, where they're investing, equipment that they're buying, where they open a new port. If we get back into great power, you talk about Belt and Road, which is principally an economic endeavor from the Chinese, but it has potential for long-term military implications, which we watch.